Hello and welcome to NICU and You. I'm Belle Stevenson and this is the podcast where we are making sense of the NICU journey, one conversation at a time. Today's episode is part of our ongoing conversation around perinatal mental health, the lived experiences, support, education and shared understanding, and I'm really grateful that you're here with us. So before we begin, if I could just ask that you don't forget to like and subscribe, as it helps to reach and support more parents on their NICU journey. And also can I say a quick thank you to our sponsors Salento and Meritcom in Strabane. Both Salento and Meritcom support NICU and You and have been great supporters of the One Day at a Time project, and we're delighted to have their support for this episode. You can find more information at nicuandyou.co.uk. So in today's episode, I'm joined by Clara, a remarkable mother of 3, each of her children born prematurely and spending time in the NICU. Her journey has been shaped by repeated uncertainty, intense separation and personal illness, including sepsis and COVID-19. This conversation explores fear, resilience, maternal health and the emotional toll of parenting in NICU. It matters not just to us today, but also to those listening who may be walking a similar path. Clara, thank you so much for being here today.
No problem, Belle. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and so if we just take it back to where it all began, not 1, 2, but 3 experiences, and I'm sure every single one different.
Absolutely, yeah. And definitely no more for that reason.
Never say never.
Yes, so Bella, who is 10, was born 5 weeks early. And Maisie, who is 7, and she was born 6 weeks early. And then Charlie, the last one, who was 3 yesterday, and he was born 10 weeks early.
Goodness.
So, yes.
So a real whirlwind then.
Absolutely.
So if we go back to 1 then.
First, how green you are with your first child.
When did things kick off, or when did you realise that things were unexpectedly coming, or was it a planned cesarean? Or
no, it was actually first child. I was doing everything by the book and doing my hypnobirthing and doing everything, and I was like, I'm going to breathe this baby out and it's going to be wonderful, and my husband's going to be there stroking my arm and it's going to be fabulous.
Lovely.
And then I was in work in Cookstown, and I was like, God, this doesn't feel right. And then I went to the toilet and came back, and then I said to one of the women, God, I don't know, there's something not right. I said, but I'll be grand, I'll be dead on. And it was the HR manager, I'll never forget her, Julie, and she says, Clara, I think you might need a, ring, it could be your water's breaking. And I was like, not sure, it's 35 weeks, that could never be the case. Wasn't even on my radar at all.
No other signs, nothing?
No, that was absolutely like nothing. So it wasn't even on my radar. And then rang the hospital, and they were like, sure, come on down the road and we'll get you checked out. I'm sure it's fine. And then I was driving down from Cookstown, doing the hypnobirth and breathing in for 4 and out for 8 or whatever it was, I can't remember at this time. And then went to the hospital, and they're like, yes, signs of preterm ruptured membranes, or the water's breaking. And they says, you go straight to Enniskillen. So went to Enniskillen, and I was like, oh, sure. It still didn't register and was totally unaware of, neonatal, and thought, I'll be in hospital now for a couple of weeks. But then that all progressed very fast, because my waters were broke for 48 hours. They were trying to keep her in, but with the strep B, I was diagnosed then with strep B, so that is obviously a risk to the baby. So they were like, no, we need to get this baby out straight away. So then that was the emergency section.
Did they explain about strep B to you and
no.
the risks around that?
They didn't. They just says, it's come back that you have strep B. And I was like, again, just...
What's that? Just
sitting, I don't even think I did say that. I didn't
even register.
I was so young. Not like, I'm not 10. I wasn't like 17, 16. I was like, well, looking back now, I was so naive. And I was totally like, I was 27, 28, and would never question or ask anything. So I was actually texting my friend, and she was like, oh my God, strep B's quite, could be quite dangerous. And I was like, right, didn't even know anything about it. And then they said, we need to get the baby out. So they induced me, and again, I thought the baby was just going to be born you know.
First baby, so you didn't really.
And then they were like, no, I wasn't progressing. They says, listen, we need to take you for a section. And having a section to me was my worst nightmare because I can't even give blood. And I was like, no way am I ever having a section. Horrendous. And had the section, and yeah, everything was fine. Baby was born. She was just over 5 pounds, which was great for an early baby. And she only was in neonatal for about a day and a half, actually.
Right.
But still, just the afterwards, then coming up to her due date and all, you start to feel really guilty and really bad, But so then I thought, if I have another baby, if and when I have another baby, I says I'll definitely not go through what I went through the first time with all the induced and labour for a couple of days. I says I'll just opt for a straight section. Not that that's easier, ladies, because it's absolutely not. But
at
mentally,
what point then, when Bella was born, then, at what point was she taken from you to neonatal?
Straight away, because off the strep B, I think that from what I remember, whenever the baby, it was with all mine, because Maisie also had strep B, so they're taken away for testing. So and again, I didn't even get to hold her.
No.
Or
So were you still in the operating theatre? Were you still in the delivery?
I was still in the table, and then they just bring the baby up and let you see the baby. Literally, they're holding on to the baby, and then the baby was taken away. And
what was your feelings at that time?
Do you know, again, because it was my first, I didn't really think about it. And I just thought, oh, sure, this is normal. And this is what needs to be done. And then it's not until down the line, then you think, actually, I've missed out.
Separation. So then you went to postnatal?
And then...
And she went to neonatal?
Yes, she went to neonatal.
And when did you first see her?
Do you know what? It's that long ago now, and there's that many stories in my head with kids. I am that bit mulled up, but I actually maybe remember being wheeled down in the bed to neonatal, and then just seeing her in the wee box or the
incubator.
The wee box. The wee incubator.
That's what it looks like.
And it's like it's a wee box.
A wee grey box.
And just reaching over and seeing her in it,
Were you allowed to hold her?
No, I wasn't allowed to hold her for the first. No, not straight away. Again, you're almost too feared to ask. Like,
and why were you afraid to ask?
Like, because you think, no, they're not allowed out. And I did the same thing with Charlie. The third baby later, and I waited days and days. One person says, "Oh no, you can't. It's better if you don't. Better if you don't take him out." And then,
so when did you get your first cuddle
with Bella? Oh, it must have been a day later. I'd say a good day later, which looking back now, I mean, compared to the other ones, was good.
Yeah. But still, there was that separation.
Yeah,
you went back to bed that night.
I know. And then you can hear, not that in Enniskillen it's all separate wards, but you still do hear
others.
Craic is different. You hear everything. But yeah, but again, this is your first experience, so you don't really question it.
Yeah. So there was separation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
A bit of anxiety maybe around that. What would you say helped you through? You're saying you're probably a bit oblivious maybe and just innocent to everything, because it was your first and you just were going with it.
That's exactly
it.
I'm anybody listening to this that knows me will probably probably like, yep, that's totally Clara. Very resilient and likes to just power on through things. So I probably don't give myself time, but didn't, as the years progressed, totally different. But at that time, first baby, I just was like, that's what's happened. Yes, it didn't go the way I wanted it to go, but listen, we get up, we go on. That's the mindset that I would have had.
And did she get home then?
She got home then, I'd say I was in for, yeah, so she actually got home at the same time as me a couple of days later. I'm not sure how many days later. It could have been longer than normal, with having the emergency section and stuff. But yes, we got to take her home, which was lovely because I got to walk out with her.
Yeah.
Whereas the rest of them, obviously, you don't.
Yeah.
They were in for quite a long time. So
And Clara, do you see when you first went into that neonatal unit to see her? Tell me how you felt when you opened that door.
Oh, so in Enniskillen, it's very small. There was only like maybe 6 beds or 6 cots, incubators. And oh my God, they're just, when you see the size of how tiny babies can actually be, like they didn't even look real. And I remember, you know what? It's actually the smell. Even now, I was looking at videos of Charlie because it was his birthday yesterday, and I was looking at videos of him in neonatal, and the noise, the beeping noise, I can smell that video. I'm like, that is PTSD at its finest. I can smell of hospitals trigger me. Absolutely. The smell of the smell of the neonatal ward, like walking down the corridor into neonatal, and yeah, it's just a very weird place, but the staff are lovely. The carers were supportive, so nice.
And who would have been your greatest go-to for your first baby, your biggest supporter? Who would have been the person that would have, or the organisation that you would have called on mostly for that first experience?
So I didn't know. All the staff in Enniskillen changed quite regularly. Like I don't really remember. There was one girl, I can't remember her name. She had dark hair, but and there was a few others. But again, I can't remember anybody that sticks out in my head. But then they come round. Tiny Life come round to your bedroom. And
yes,
I didn't know who Tiny Life were. I thought it was the Bounty Pack. Remember that?
Yes,
the Bounty Pack had been, and I thought it was her coming back again. She's like, no, we're Tiny Life and this is what we do. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. And if you ever need, our help or assistance, you can get in touch. And I actually got in touch with them and borrowed their breast pump, which was brilliant.
Yes,
the breast pump loan service.
Yes, that's right.
They were brilliant. And then joined all the wee groups and stuff that they would have ran. They would have ran different things over the years, like wee toddler groups and baby groups and stuff, meetups and stuff like that.
Yes,
But yeah, in the hospital, there's nobody. Like there's actually nobody. And I only found out recently, Belle, I was on I was on Queen's University. We're doing research about a month ago.
Yeah.
And they invited preterm. It was through Tiny Life. They sent out an invite, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to go on this about mental health post neonatal. And I wasn't on the call 3 minutes, and I was listening to other people's stories, and it was horrendous. And I was like crying, and I said one of the girls was speaking about how she got on really well with this psychologist in Antrim.
Yeah.
And I says, sorry, can I just pitch in? I says, I've been down Enniskillen and Craigavon, and there's no psychologist. Like, where are you getting this experience from? It sounds fabulous. Yeah. And no other neonatal, that's what they said to me. I don't know if that's true, but no other neonatal in Northern Ireland has a psychologist only
on the unit.
Only Antrim. So you're just left to...
Yeah.
You're literally just meant to fend for yourself, and that's it.
And as you say that, you keep saying, this was your first pregnancy, so you just kind of went with it.
But that's actually
with it just.
But that's obviously not the way.
So you got home with Bella, and then the second one, with your second pregnancy, then were you more like confident about it?
No,
no.
It was absolutely.
What happened there?
So after I had Bella, I got home and everything was great, and I thought, God, having a section, sure, no bother. It was amazing, no problem. Then 5 weeks later, after when it comes up to her due date, I started to really was bad, and I was like crying, and I was like, what's wrong with you? I was like, I don't know. I feel so bad. I feel like she shouldn't be here. She should still be in my tummy, and I didn't keep her in, and that's my fault, and all that. And then I was like, but I worked through it. I didn't do anything. Well, I think then I might have. I didn't ask for help until maybe I got pregnant the second time. So there's 2 and 10 months between Bella and Maisie. So say, a good 2 years, over 2 years later, that's when I contacted the Support Together in Oma. And they're a charity locally that help with postnatal and prenatal anxiety and depression. And I had heard of postnatal depression before. Yeah. But I'd never heard of postnatal anxiety. I'd never heard of that before. So I went to the girls, and they were lovely, and they sent me to like a woman who used to work in the trust, and she did like birth trauma. I did like it's not a debrief, but I can't remember the exact terminology. It's when you go back through what happened the first time.
Okay, yeah.
Because I was getting really anxious of this happening again.
Right.
Which I was told that it's highly unlikely that it would.
Okay.
So the girls in sport together were brilliant, and they went for reflexology, and I went to the girls in there, and they were very, very good. So that really helped me.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, it didn't work out that way. So Maisie I went off work on the Friday, and I was like, right, I'm going to go off work earlier this time because of what happened to me the last time. And the girls in work were laughing. I went off on the Friday, had a big baby shower in work, and then ended up in hospital on the Monday.
And how many weeks early was
6?
6 weeks early.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
massive difference. Massive
35.
difference, as in
the weight
every wee pound. You know, when you lose a pound somewhere, you're thinking, oh, that's nothing. And a pound with a baby's a big thing. So she was in hospital for quite a few weeks. Like she was 4 pounds something maybe.
Okay, and what was the initial introduction to neonatal with her? Like, you know, so she was taken away as well.
She was, so again, emergency. So I opted to have a section this time.
Right, okay.
And they came in and they were like, are you sure you don't want to have
because it is major. It is a major operation.
And I says, I'm not going through what I went through the last time in terms of being started and all that there. So and been in labour for days. I says, listen, I'm going to opt for the straight section. So that was fine. Went in section. Now every time you have a section, it seems to take a bit longer for whatever reason. It just, like, the first section was so quick and the second was a bit long and the third one was really long. But so had Maisie, and again, just a wee peck in the cheek. You don't get to touch her, don't get to hold her. No inverted commas, skin to skin. And how did you feel that time? I was like, I wish I had say it. I wish I had opened my mouth and said, but I just thought, no, they're doing this for the better of the baby. Right. So, like, it's not about me. So they took her away and then did all the tests and all because of the strep B again, you see. Okay. Mm-hmm. Although the strep B was picked up much earlier this time. So then, because of my past experience, and then Maisie was taken away and again wheeled down to see her, and she was tiny. She was so tiny, even though there's only 1.5 pounds a difference between her and Maisie. Bella, so small. I didn't get to hold her for, oh my God, a good few days. Good few days. And yeah, the girls were fabulous, but again, you know, just left to your own devices.
Was it different? Was it different when you walked in, or was it the same?
It just felt same again.
Did you feel like you were reliving that first experience?
I felt like this is not my first rodeo. Right, that's what it felt like. I felt, oh, sure, here we are again. And again, maybe just suppressing it all, not really thinking about it. No, just very, right, let this pull up our socks and let's go. Let's, that's my mindset. And until everything actually crumbles.
To hold her?
Probably a couple of days after, down in neonatal, they took her out and they let me hold her for a wee while.
What was that like?
Oh my God. See if I could bottle that up.
And can you smell all that?
I know. That was the video that I was looking at too, of Charlie and his wee hands scraping and all. And that is amazing. Like, that's the thing that you miss, obviously. I mean, not having any more children. That is obviously. But no, like, absolutely amazing. And then,
did that give you hope then, that when you get to hold her?
Do you know what? I never actually, I was very green as well that, oh, my children are going to be fine. Like, there's nothing seriously wrong with them. I don't know why. I was like, yes, they're born early, but like, I don't envisage them having any serious illnesses or anything like that there, which is so naive, because then what happened to me with Charlie in the 30 weeks and then being told down the line, actually, there was different wee things and that he had bleeding in the brain. I didn't know that until a couple of weeks later. Yeah. They missed, I don't know how they missed telling me that, things like that. And I was just so presumptuous that, sure, the rest, Bella was fine. Maisie will be fine. Mm-hmm. The next one will be fine. You're just going on that presumption that everything's going to be okay, when actually then it doesn't end up like that. So
with Charlie then, what was the story there then? The pregnancy with Charlie, was that different again?
Well, after I had Maisie, I was very, very ill. I got out of, I had an infection, my CRP
with Maisie.
After after having Maisie. I had an infection somewhere in my body that they couldn't figure out where it was.
Okay.
And they knew I had an infection. They gave me antibiotics and they let me go home, even though my infection marker was 300 and something.
Goodness.
Which I didn't know what that meant until I found out afterwards. Most people's...
Did you ask, Clara?
No, I didn't. Most people's infection marker sits at around... But the third time, I asked a lot of questions.
Yes.
So your CRP apparently sits at around 5. And mine was 300 and something. They let me go home. But I didn't know that normal was 5. So they let me go home and I... Slowly over the next couple of days, I got really, really ill and was going back up to neonatal to see Maisie in Skillen to bring her up milk. And I was like, this is not, there's something not right. And I went to the hospital, the maternity ward, and they scanned me and they were like, did you have a section? And I was like, yeah. And they were like, we're readmitting you straight away. So there was retained product or like placenta, or I don't know the correct terminologies, the medical. Right. And she gave me a tablet. It's like a wee 20p piece that to help you pass what's left behind. And I'm not even joking you, Belle, when I say that I said to Ryan, I'm going to die here the night. Please don't leave. I'm going to die. And the World Cup was on. I'll never forget it. He was like, you'll be grand, you're fine. I was like, he was going to watch the World Cup and I was like, no, this is terrible. The pain I was in. And they were like, listen, you're going to pass all this yourself. Oh my God, I wasn't even allowed water. I remember saying to Ryan, my mouth's dry thinking about it. I says, go and wet a tissue and let me suck the tissue, the water from the tissue, because they weren't letting me have any water. Yeah. So I remember making them do that there. And this went on for hours and hours, about 24 hours. And they kept coming in and scanning me. They're like, no, it's still not enough. You need to go for a DNC. And I thought, what is a DNC? Didn't know what it was. I was like, please don't tell me you have to open me up like by section again. No, obviously not. So they knocked me out back into theatre, and then after that I felt like a new woman. Like so the retained product obviously was left behind and was making me ill. Yeah. How that happened, I don't know with a section, but
well, I think it happens.
Yeah. So I then didn't want to have any more kids for a long, long time. So that's why there's such a gap then. There's 5 years between Maisie and Charlie. Okay. So with Charlie, I decided then, okay, my sister to be baby. And I was like, oh, I'd love another one. And then found out it was a boy. And I was like, it'll definitely not happen this time. So and then it did.
What happened?
So what happened then, Belle? Great pregnancy. I always trained through with Maisie and with Charlie. And I trained at the gym a couple of times a week, went to classes, all like catered for being pregnant. And then I started getting pains at about 28 weeks, wild bad pains. They were like, oh, pelvic girdle, this, that and the other. In and out of hospital for a couple of weeks. I couldn't even walk from the lay-by at the Oma Hospital to the door to go to up the stairs.
So severe.
It was so sore, like a heaviness. And just nobody would take me on. Even with my past experience, I was like, there's just something not right. So it was brought down to Skillen twice, but they shipped me out because they don't take under 34 weeks. So I was brought in an ambulance into Craic. Okay. And investigations done. And again, the pain and everything subsided whenever I literally done nothing. So when I was sitting on a hospital bed doing nothing, and I had bleeding and all too, and they were like, no, pelvic girdle, that's what it has to be. And then the third time I went in a Skillen and they checked, and it was signs of they do some sort of a test, fibronectin test or some sort of a test, I don't know, that can tell what the chances are of having a preterm birth. And then that was very high. Straight to Craic and kept in Craic then, and that was the start of that. But it turns out that, well, I'll tell you about what I actually did have. 9 months later I found out, but anyway. So yes, Charlie then was born. Everything, they were trying to keep him in, obviously, for as long as possible. Right, yeah. But I was brought in, and then I was put on what is it they give you whenever you're having a preterm baby? Magnesium.
Goodness.
Oh God, Belle.
What would that feel like?
It feels like your body's on fire. Yeah. and they put it in. You can feel it going through. It feels like you can feel it being pumped through every part of your body. And I had that, and I had loads of other drugs given to me. And that night was one of the worst nights again. Like Ryan actually said to me, he says, Clara, I thought you were gone. And I can picture him sitting in the chair, and they were doing everything that they needed to do. Magnesium for so long. I don't know, Belle, how long do you be on magnesium for?
I'm not actually sure.
6 hours or something hours, say it, whatever it is. And they were moving me back upstairs because everything was fine. There was no sign of movement. And when they moved me into the wheelchair, I just collapsed. And Ryan says, he seen my eyes roll to the back of my head, and the woman put off the buzzer. And I kind of feel part of me, this is very dramatic, but I kind of feel like part of me died. I feel like I did die, because all I could see was like, this sounds so corny, and a white light. And I heard the woman, all I could hear, Ryan says the woman, I could hear her say it, the nurse, she's in her boots.
Dear.
So my blood pressure dropped to 40/20.
Jeepers.
Which again, I didn't know what that meant until my sister's nurse told me.
Boots.
She says she's in her boots, and everybody ran in. And yeah, so I don't really I still don't know what happened to me. I do need the girls from Sport Together. I'm going to be very cross. I was supposed to have a debrief, but I never had it yet. And then Charlie wasn't born then for another couple of days. So after that, but yeah.
And when he was taken to neonatal, again, what was your experience like going in the door that time?
Very different.
Very different.
Because he was super, super duper small. He didn't even actually, whenever they showed me him, whenever they came down again, like I knew that I couldn't hold him because he was so small.
What weight was he?
He was just 3.5 pounds.
Oh goodness.
So he, his face, the girls had dolls that were bigger. So whenever I seen him, I thought, I can't even touch him.
Right, okay.
So he, they took him away, and then something happened during the section. So that's why there was bleeding. They couldn't stop or something. I remember hearing the doctor say something, and I was in what felt like this surgery for hours. So I didn't get out for a long time, and then they brought me down to neonatal, and oh my God, like, oh, he was so small, but like, again, you weren't allowed to touch him. So it's only because I'm only crying, sorry.
I know that's
it's
okay.
only because it was his birthday yesterday.
Oh, bless him. But it is okay to cry, and that's why, that's why these things are being brought, these conversations are being brought to the fore, because people are holding in that pain, they're holding in that trauma, and it needs to come out. It needs to be acknowledged and recognised for what it is, and it's natural to cry. You're getting emotions for a reason, Clara. So
but
cry.
No, he was very good.
Tears,
he was brilliant. Like,
incredible.
He was in neonatal for a long time, 6 or 7 weeks. But then I was so ill after I had him. That's why I was like, never again, because I was in hospital, but in Craigavon it's different. The neonatal ward's 2 floors below, or the maternity ward's up high, and neonatal's down the bottom.
Down there, and
I couldn't even. I was so ill. I couldn't even go down to him. I had 2 bad infections, and
that took its toll on you.
That was it. I actually said to the woman, I said to the nurses that were coming in, I says, listen, I just wanted. I said, if I was a horse, I'd be put down long ago. I was like, this has to stop. Like, please, somebody do something for me. Horrendous. Like, I had ones coming in to take blood from me in the morning time, and they couldn't even get blood. They had nursing assistants, nurses, they had doctors. They had to go down and get a paediatric doctor to come up with a baby butterfly that they would use on a baby to get blood from me. It was that bad. And every day the cleaner was coming in, you still here? And I was like, yes, I'm still here. And she was like, oh gosh. And I was like, I know. She was a lovely wee Polish girl, and she just couldn't believe that I was still there 3 weeks later.
And if you were to go through that again, is there anything that you would, wish that you had have done or said or asked, or that somebody had done for you?
So this time I asked loads of things, and I was very, very involved.
Did it help you?
Yeah, I was like, because I says, I know there's something not right.
Yeah.
Because I don't want the same thing to happen to me what happened with Maisie with the infection. So I knew something wasn't right. And I asked, and I Googled, and I asked loads of questions.
Good.
So yeah, but they were lovely. They were lovely, but again, no, like there's no. The staff are so busy; they don't have time to come and hold your hand. Do you know what I mean? And say, "Oh, you're all right, pet." They don't have time to do that.
How long was Charlie in then for?
About just under 7 weeks.
7 weeks, and then when you went home,
So
when did you go home?
So I got home 3 weeks later with. So I took phlebitis. I think that's how to say it. An infection in where the cannula points are, and I swear to God, it was horrendous. It was like big boulders on my arms and different parts of me. And I also took an infection in my wound, and that was awful too. They had to send me for a CT scan and all, and oh God, the pain of that was horrendous. But anyway, eventually 3 weeks later, couldn't believe I was getting out. I thought I'd won the lottery, like honestly. And it was only then whenever I got home, then I was home, I don't know. So I was home about 3 weeks, obviously. And just life. And my husband took sick and he got COVID and I was ready to kill him. I was so cross. Like, not that it was his fault. He didn't think, like, COVID was 2023. It was kind of the tail end of COVID. But you still had to wear a mask and neonatal and stuff.
Yeah, take precautions.
The doctor, when Ryan rang, they were like, just do a COVID test just in case. So we done the COVID test and it was positive. And they were like, he can't go in for 10 days. And I am staying away from you. And I was cleaning, like, no, I was half dead, but I was crawling upstairs, cleaning banisters and stuff. And this could not affect me. Like, I can't not get in to see Charlie. And a couple of days later, I came down with it too and wasn't allowed into the neonatal sofa. And the best of it is they wouldn't let mummy or daddy or Ryan's mummy or daddy.
Instead,
nobody was allowed in the same
people.
And it was heartbreaking. Yeah. They were video calling me and sending pictures and like video calling with a newborn baby. They just set the iPad in the cot and you're just looking at a baby. And it was awful. Like, I couldn't even do it. I was like, nah, like, it's just.
So that took its toll.
It's horrendous.
Emotional
and then pictures of them reading in wee books and all. Lovely, but so jealous.
Yeah.
You know?
She wanted to be there so much.
And so it took a long time to get back in. It was between the two of us, obviously, 10 days and 10 days. Nobody had been in.
That's
there was an overlap.
Time. So there's a lot of separation there with Charlie.
Never. So.
What would you say that has done for you now then? Suppose summing all three experiences up. How do you feel that those have shaped you as a mother and as a person, taking in all of those separations and all of those experiences?
Probably, again, very resilient, but a little bit weaker. I mean, a wee bit weaker, but more understanding of anxiety. Because then I went to the doctors and they were like, you've postnatal anxiety, and I didn't even know what that was. I was like, what even is that? And it makes so much more sense. So I'm much more aware and much more a better understanding, and just not trying not to be so hard on yourself, I suppose. But yeah.
And I suppose going on that now, what message would you give to parents walking that same path today? Anybody currently in NICU, what would you be saying to those parents?
Ask the questions. Like, don't be, and if you're not happy with something, just stipulate that and say that, because if you don't make noise, nobody's gonna come and tell you anything. And just ask the questions, and don't be afraid to document everything as well.
Okay.
Absolutely, yes.
So one thing that really stands out from our conversation today, Clara, is that being a parent of a premature baby is a journey filled with fear, uncertainty, and intense moments of separation. And resilience doesn't mean never being afraid or feeling afraid. And strength isn't about having all the answers. It's about showing up for the child and for yourself and the moments in between. And you don't have to have all the answers, and to take it one day at a time, because it's a journey. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So I think that's important here, is remembering that you don't have to have all the answers and you don't have to do this alone. It is a journey and it's taken one day at a time. So if this episode has resonated with anyone, please consider subscribing to NICU and You wherever you listen to podcasts. Leaving a review or sharing the episode really helps these conversations reach the people who need them most. You'll also find links in the show notes if you'd like to know more or have more support or information. A final thank you to Clara.
No problem.
Thank you so much for sharing your story and being so brave. And to Salento and Meritcom for supporting this episode and helping make these conversations possible. And to everyone listening, thank you for trusting us with your time and your story. Whatever stage you're at, remember, you don't have to do this alone. It is a journey. Take it one day at a time. This has been NICU and You with Belle Stevenson. Take care and we'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the NICU and You podcast with your host, Belle Stevenson. Supported by Salento and Meritcom. Recorded at and produced by 9874 Creative.